Hiya, it's Talking Reds. I'm Josh Sexton. It is a lovely day in Liverpool, and it's lovely to be joined by Neil Atkinson as well. It's actually quite windy, to be fair. It's windier than I thought.
It is windy, but it is very, very sunny indeed. The sun is above us there, so if I'm squinting a little bit, that's why. Sam has got some fantastic sunglasses on behind the camera, and I'm somewhat jealous of them. I went and got some prescription sunglasses, and they're nowhere near dark enough. They make me look like a 70s artist.
They're also dead expensive, I find, prescription sunglasses as well. Like, it's so much more graft than it's worth to just be a bit blind.
Exactly. They said you can bring them back and they'll darken the lenses, and I keep meaning to, but I've not been in ours very much, to walk around the corner and say, definitely make them darker, for I am not Andy Warhol.
Yeah, there's a lot of graft having bad vision, I know personally as well. Neil, in terms of last night, we're obviously here the morning after Manchester United were beaten in the Europa League final. I didn't watch the game, I was actually listening to it on the radio, but I found that to be quite a pure form of consuming my football this season, listening to it on 5 Live, Neil Lennon and Dion Dublin on the commentary there. It was just so funny sort of hearing it all transpire, but also the penalty shootout that's mad. Villarreal score 11 penalties and Alberto Moreno takes the 4th penalty.
I couldn't believe he was on the 4th one. I was beginning to see a scenario where he might come in and take the 7th or 8th. I reckon he'd have missed the 7th or 8th, but the fact that he got the responsibility of the 4th and then he drilled it home was just... But when he stepped up, I was so nervous. Like, I've sat through Liverpool penalty shootouts and not been as nervous as I suddenly became for poor Albie. I really didn't want him to be like... I was about to say I don't want him to be a figure of fun, but he is a bit of a figure of fun. But I want him to be a figure of fun on his own terms. Yeah. And all the videos that he does afterwards about it all, that's him being a figure of fun on his own terms. That's him being really, really happy and wanting to share it. And share it a little bit with Liverpool supporters. But Villarreal's achievements, this is a major European trophy. Their history is they've won 2 Intertoto Cups and the Spanish Third Division. That's it. That's all they've ever won. The Spanish Third Division was in the 70s. It's an incredible achievement that a place of that size. It's equivalent to Crosby. To be honest with you, it's unbelievable that a place of that size has won a Europa League. It really is. It's such an achievement. And the other person who I didn't want to be a figure of fun was the manager. Yeah, the manager's absolutely vindicated, and it didn't work for him at Arsenal, and that's all right. But maybe that was a little bit as much Arsenal's problem as it is his. He's brilliant at that tournament. He's obviously a great coach on the night. He gets all the way through. He's vindicated, and the Man United manager looks like a bit of a fool. Yeah, and it's sort of double the fun in that sense, isn't it? Because I know there was a lot of skitting of United fans going on Twitter and on social media in general last night. But also the Albi Moreno thing is so good, and it shows you, doesn't it, that we get these ex-Liverpool players who don't even spend many years here. Alberto Moreno's probably there for three or 4 years, but you can tell that Liverpool, he feels Liverpool now within his heart, and he probably will forever as well. He says it on the video, Siempre Liverpool. Yes, I think it shows that that's what we want, and not just for Liverpool. There'll be ex-players of Manchester United who feel the same way about Manchester United. It's one of the reasons why, I think we can sometimes sort of contemplate buying a player who used to play for X, but I think it's almost a little bit impure. Like, once they've got them. We've got to sort of respect that, unless it's really funny, like Nicky Barmby. You've got to sort of be able to do no. They if someone's got 100 games for Man United or 100 games for Liverpool, then a Man United or a Liverpool player. We want that to have that meaning, and you could see that meant something still to Moreno within there. And obviously he'll have had people on his Instagram chat that he's responding to when we get to see that video. I was just, as I say, the sheer explosion of joy I think that you got to see from the Villarreal players upon winning the thing was just immense. And it's not really... The best reason for Manchester United not to win it is obviously the jokes, but putting that to one side, it doesn't really make much difference to United. They've won that trophy relatively recently. They're going to have the season they're going to have next year, regardless of whether or not they won the Europa League. Certainly if they'd have ended up winning it on a penalty shootout, 11-10. Jonathan Lew's written something excellent, and it's not as though it would have made them feel more like a winning machine or less like a winning machine if David De Gea slots the penalty and the other keeper misses. They'd have still been as flawed as they were in that final. And for me, looking at next season now, I think Chelsea are flawed. They've shown that in recent weeks. I'm not taking United seriously still, and I'm happy not to take United seriously in terms of being a genuine league-winning outfit. It's us and City, and it's us and City all the way. And that's what it's going to come down to. It's either going to be us or City run away with it, or us and City go hammer and tongs at one another. I'm not having the other two at all. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it'll forever be funny for the jokes of Man United, of course, as Neil mentioned there. Forever funny because of Alberto Moreno, who's forever in our hearts, on his hoverboard, walking his dog.
look, Neil, speaking of lads leaving Liverpool and being in our hearts, Gini Wijnaldum, it looks like he is off to Barcelona. It's funny, isn't it, because you've seen all the Super League stuff sort of unfolding with Barcelona this season. That still continues to rumble on now. It looks like there'll be sanctions for Madrid, Juventus and Barca, and I'm happy for Gini to be moving to a hot country, but I'm worried about that football club he's moving to a bit. I
am a bit as well, but one of the things I think that's coming through is that he's theoretically taking a wage-based pay cut and getting a longer deal than he would have got at Liverpool. I think that's smart in that I reckon Gini's getting one hell of a signing on fee. And if you're Gini's agent, you're ensuring he's getting one hell of a signing on fee, because that could all go quite badly wrong quite quickly. So I think that feels to me as though it is the smart move. If I was Wijnaldum, I'd want that money up front and I'd want it in my bank. I want it in escrow as quickly as humanly possible. I want to know that's there and it's sorted, and then go from there and play those games for that club. It is obviously so sad to see him go, but I think that the more I've been talking about it on shows, and it's interesting doing all the different types of shows, because I get a lot of different sorts of perspectives, and sometimes I'm a guest and sometimes I'm a host. One of the things that sort of occurred to me through the conversations is that ultimately this becomes that Liverpool have decided they want to move forward with two of Thiago, Henderson and Wijnaldum. And I think that that's something which people need to make the peace with now. There's actually an argument, quite a strong argument, that they may have been better moving forward with Wijnaldum than Henderson. And I don't mean that, it's all disrespectfully to Jordan, but it's simply about ability to get on the pitch. And that would become what the main thing was. But I think they'll have felt that Jordan's intangibles versus Wijnaldum's physical attendance record, that they'd rather have Jordan's footballing qualities and his intangibles and think they can get him fit and look after him versus the Gini Wijnaldum move, and that they've just brought Thiago in for one season. He's only had one season so far. He's been back for the next 4 years. So last summer it's Thiago or it's Wijnaldum who we're moving forward with. This summer it's Wijnaldum or it's Henderson who we're moving forward with. And I'm broadly with the decision. As I say, I actually think it's a little closer than you would think. But ultimately, Jordan Henderson is now a Liverpool captain, a proper Liverpool captain. He isn't going anywhere. And so you just sort of whittle this stuff down. We can't go forward. As much as it pains us to say it, we can't just keep going forward with lads who are in their 29, 30, 31. We just can't keep moving forward with that forever, because there just comes a point, and you can have a few of them around, and that's what I mean. You've got to pick the ones you want, and Liverpool have picked the ones they want. Yes, it's interesting as well, because it looks like there's a few others who will be leaving this summer, and you mentioned the age thing there, and me and you have spoke about this on quite a few shows that we've been on together, because it's something that's concerned me. Xherdan Shaqiri is one of the names to be mentioned to go. He's obviously sort of in that older bracket, probably on the back end of his peak years. But then there's lads like Divock Origi and Minamino who are kicking around that sort of 24 to 26 mark, which is a sort of crucial age for Liverpool. But if they're not performing or not getting the game time, then obviously they're going to want to look elsewhere. Or Liverpool have decided the ceiling isn't where it needs to be for Liverpool. What I would say is, to me, that makes them actually quite attractive propositions to buy. If someone's got a real plan for how we sign Divock Origi and get the best out of him, then I think he could become a footballer who would be worth quite a high fee that Liverpool might want to attract for him. For me, I think they're actually, ironically, that because of the age of them, they are good potential sort of sales from a Liverpool point of view. So I think that, Minamino, Liverpool have only paid $7.5 million for him. They can almost certainly make a pretty quick profit on him, either back into continental Europe or somewhere else in this country. I think Divock is for me, he's the one that's got the greatest variance. Goal scorers and centre forwards, firstly, they go for the biggest price, but also, if Divock to me looks like, and has had phases during his career, where he does look like he's 20 goals a season, all comps. That's possible. You've got to commit to him and to a style of play that gets that out of him. But for me, I think he could be 20 goals a season for the right club at the right time. And so therefore, his value to me is, if we were doing this tomorrow and you said Liverpool have received a £28 million bid for Divock Origi, I wouldn't sit here and go, that's mad. How can I get that? Or if we go through this winter when we accept 14 million, I wouldn't go, oh, we've absolutely sold him too cheaply there. I think it's time, though. I think part of why you have some of these players and you keep them maybe in seasons where you're not sure how much you're going to use them is because there's a point where you're going to cash in and you're going to feel the need to cash in. And I think with everything that's gone on with COVID and everything else where Liverpool are, I think this is a bit of a cash in summer. And I think that they shouldn't just be doing Divock. I think it's time to do Shaqiri, to do maybe 4 or 5 relatively large others within there as well, and see where the money ends up from a Liverpool point of view in order to be able to get the players that they want to get in, which will be a smaller number but hopefully better quality. I just want to pick up on that point you make there, because it's
I think people were looking at the summer as potentially a rebuild summer for Liverpool, a summer, you know, where the expectations weren't met this season. You can go into the summer and you can trim some of the fat from that squad. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a rebuild summer, because I don't think there'll be loads of incomings. I think there'll be a couple of incomings, but there won't be as many incomings as there are outgoings. It's more of a sort of resetting from the point you were at, isn't it, really? There's going to be a few of the younger lads who leave. We've seen some of those names in Neil Jones's article for Goal.com yesterday, the likes of Ben Woodburn, Liam Miller and stuff like that. It's a chance for Liverpool to blood in some of the younger lads who have been showing the ceiling, as you said before, and it's a chance for Liverpool to get in some other lads who may have a higher ceiling as well.
For me, it's looking to do 3 or 4 really, really big hitters, and maybe a couple of very small sort of squad signings. Like, for instance, I think what Liverpool choose to do with Adrian, you know, it's obviously their business, but it is a little bit ours. What I would say is, I would not have a goalkeeper who looks like he's going to be number 3rd in the pecking list not be homegrown. For me, that's a bit mad, and that's the only reason why I wouldn't keep Adrian, by the way. That genuinely is the only reason. So, you know, maybe you've got little things like Adrian out, and, you know, the name I keep using, so it's in my head, is Ben Foster in, you know, something
Great
like that.
Great for wasting time.
Yeah, for all the hits, all the Ben Foster bits and pieces, but there's other stuff, all right? There's other little bits and pieces that you can do, but you end up effectively, I think, sort of going, right, what do we need? We've got a decision to make, I think, across 4 players who are all pretty expensive. 1 or 2 really good centre-halves, 1 or 2 really good centre-mids, depending on how you feel you need to replace Gini, and 1 forward. Now, you might compromise and you might have 2 centre-halves, 1 midfielder, 1 forward. You might go 1 centre-half, 2 midfielders, 1 forward. You might go 2 centre-halves and 2 midfielders and think the forward thing will keep for another season. Certainly if Elliott's coming back and you're backing a couple of the other lads. You know, you've got moves within there, but I think it's 4 pretty hefty players who you can see playing 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons for Liverpool. So it does become transitional, but they get embedded into this side as it was meant to be now, with Van Dijk, with Gomez, with Henderson, with Matip, with those long-term absentees all returning. And then you do feel like you've transitioned, and you have. But I just think that now Liverpool will always be in a state of mini transition, but especially every 3 years. They go really big in the year 2018. And I think that Liverpool need to have another 2018, and what that means is then in a 2024 they'll need to have another 2018, and so on, and then you just get to see how those lads settle.
Yeah, really interesting summer to come for Liverpool, you'd sort of expect. The news obviously comes out yesterday about the Hillsborough trial collapsing.
Yep.
It's awful, it's disgusting, it's all the things you'd sort of think of the words at that time, but the Anfield Wrap took a bit of a pause on social media yesterday, just sort of to take a moment of reflection, to allow people who are the main voice in this thing to get their platform, and there's more of that today with Phil Scratton on the Anfield Wrap as well.
Yep, Phil's done something with us this morning which is out for free. Do share it widely. We put it out for free so you can share it. That is the main reason why, with as many different people as possible. It's important that we curate our own media. We saw an issue with the way in which 5 Live went about the business yesterday, so it's important that where we've got control of what goes out, that we do the decent thing. There was an excellent piece written by Carl Kopak as well. There's something in my daily rundown email today as well on this latest collapse and what it means. It's not all, there's obviously massive negativity to it, but it's fair to say there's been a long period of time where a lot of people who've had a lot, like an unbelievable burden to go through, haven't been able to speak about it for fear of prejudicing the trials, and now they can speak, and it's important that if they choose to, that we also choose to listen. So there's at least that as the slight silver lining to that, and obviously there's all the other stuff you would expect from the Anfield Wrap across the next few weeks, all transfer stuff, all bits and pieces. We were doing transfer committee silliness yesterday, so everything that you want from the Anfield Wrap as per.
Yeah, it goes without saying it'll be a massively tough time for those families, survivors and campaigners who fought 32 long years to get a result. The result is not coming, but we're thinking of all those people this time. Look after each other and up the Reds.